This is episode 4 of the Arts Academy podcast with Victor Varnado and Roxxy Haze. How to market your podcast. Special guest, Amber Rollo. Hey, Amber, how's it going?
Oh, you know, I am quarantined with my ex-fiance right now, so it's fun.
And now, if I can give a quick introduction, Amber Rollo is a comedian and a host, and then I've known her for a while, and since I've known her, she's been with this one person. His name is Gabe Pacheco. I say his last name right, Pacheco?
Pacheco, yeah.
Pacheco. Okay, so she's been with Gabe Pacheco, and then right before coronavirus hit, apparently they broke up.
2 weeks before.
Oh,
Two
man.
Weeks before.
2 weeks before, but now they are shacked up together in the same apartment because of coronavirus. And then they decided to start a podcast being in the same apartment.
Because what else are we going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to up the tension levels.
What's the name of your podcast?
It's called The Next Binge Thing. And we binge TV shows together and then talk about them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then you talk about TV shows and relationship a little bit, right?
Yeah, we talk about TV shows. We talk about our coping skills, and then we talk about the TV shows, and then we talk about, again, like how we're surviving. The TV shows are just like a vehicle we use in order to talk about everything that's going on, this new norm, living with our ex, and also being quarantined.
Well, since we're talking about technology,
Yes.
I almost said technology, but that's completely wrong. But since we're talking about technology, why don't you tell us what your setup is for recording your podcast?
Sure. Well, we do it on video and audio, and we don't live stream it. Although now talking about all of this, I really am intrigued by StreamYard and using these different ways of doing it. But right now it's pretty much in-house. It's all, we use an H5 Zoom, and then we plug our XLR mics directly into that. And then I also have my camera on a tripod in front of us. And so I use the video from the camera, and then I use the audio from this H5 Zoom. I sync them up afterwards. I just edit it all pretty much in Premiere because I'm lazy, and then I download the MP3 and the MP4 through Premiere. I could go into like Audacity and like mess with the audio more in Audacity, but I haven't gotten into like messing with the audio that much. But I have a surprise for you, I think. I'm going to tell you about it right now. I believe that the H5 Zoom is actually a USB audio interface as well. What?
Which means that you can plug it into your computer and then use regular mics because of the Zoom.
How?
What? How? Well, doesn't your Zoom have a USB port?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
Usually when you plug in a Zoom, it'll say, do you want to use this as a storage device or as a USB audio interface? So when you plug it into the computer and you choose USB audio interface, and then your microphone can be plugged in, and then you can use it. You can use like a real microphone.
Amazing.
You could be using a real microphone right now.
Amazing. I'm not using a real microphone right now, but that's really awesome. Thank you. You're way more technologically adept than I am. I'm just like, I don't know. I mishmash things together that I have.
What can I say? I am an AV nerd.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how we do it. And then I also have this other project called, which is a live comedy show called Can I Live? And I host that on Zoom on every Friday on Zoom. So, but we don't have a microphone or anything, but I do a live Zoom comedy show.
You do?
I do.
Well, so when you do a live Zoom comedy show, is it all the guests are also in Zoom, or are you using Zoom and streaming it live on Facebook?
I've done both. I've had all the guests on Zoom for Can I Live? So we can have up to 100 guests, but I'm not that popular. We usually have like 50. And then I've also done it on Zoom where we have like a live studio audience essentially. So we had like 30 people who were friends, and then we had it streamed to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. Yeah.
That's cool. I like the idea of Zoom because what you can do with Zoom is you can you can have a group of people and then stream it live. Like you could have a group of people that are more controlled.
Exactly.
Like if you wanted to do a comedy show, you could actually have laughter. And one of the things that is actually important for all of these, which I forgot to mention, was latency. Zoom is fast enough so that you can tell a joke and get laughs and it feels natural.
Yeah.
So is StreamYard. It's actually fast enough so that you can have real conversations like we're having right now. I can't say the same for Soundtrap, but then again, Soundtrap is not a live streaming platform.
That's exactly why I chose Zoom for the comedy show as opposed to like Instagram Live or Facebook Live, which I see people doing, is because I wanted the actual live laughter reaction from people. But then integrating the two is even better. I haven't gotten there yet.
Well, one thing that we wanted to talk about, especially a lot of people who have their own podcasts out there who are going to want to know about, is you were recently featured in a pretty decent write-up with. Where was it?
Forbes magazine.
In Forbes magazine, and I remember it was you, it was Kamal Nanjiani, and another couple who also have a podcast.
Yes. It was so whenever I have projects, I always just send out I put together like a press release, and then I send it out to different publications that I think I would love to write about us. And it's a lot of time and work, and sometimes I hire a publicist to do it, and sometimes I do it myself. This one I did get a publicist to do it, but I've done the same thing myself. So what you do is you just get a press release together, summarizing exactly what your podcast about, what highlights it, what makes it different from other people's, and then you find the reporters who are writing about things like this. And in this case, it was Joshua Dudley, who writes for Forbes about podcasts. And my publicist reached out to him, and he happens to know my ex-fiance, Gabe Pacheco.
Okay.
She didn't know that he knew him, but
lucky break.
Yeah, exactly. When those two things link up and you're like, oh, this is a podcast that this is like a thing that I happen to be writing about. People that I happen to like and know already, and it's a good product. Then once that all comes together, they will write about it. But honestly, it's just it's time. It's reaching out to like a bunch of different places, and then when you get the little ones, like if you are doing a comedy podcast and you want to reach out to a awesome smaller publication like Comedy Cake. Right. Then they will write about it, and then those little ones build up on each other. And once you get more write-ups, you are higher in the SEO when people start looking up podcasts like this, when people start looking up like comedy podcast, quarantine podcast, you want your name to come up higher and higher. Right. And as that happens, then bigger and bigger publications will be open to writing about you. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. Now, one question is, if people are out there and they've got their podcast and they're like, I want to hook up with a publicist, what kind of price tag are they looking at?
That's a good question. It depends on the publicist and the deal that you have worked out with them, but it can be anywhere from like, if you have a small time person who's doing it for, trying to build up their resume and stuff, it can be like $500 a month. People pay up to like $10,000 a month. And you can work on them on a project base, or you can work on them, or you can like have a publicist for, that like handles all of your business. Basically, my publicist is like my manager essentially, because so she like hooks me up with writing projects. She like pitches me for writing projects, and video projects, and then I actually make the content. And right now my publicist is like $1,000 a month.
Great. I mean, that's actually great information. And to be honest, I actually knew the answer because I have a publicist that I work with for some projects right now. However, it's different. It's different for different people. And if you're like an individual, it's different than like where I have a small company. Obviously, we have different price levels that we work with.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've like researched it, but I still don't know what everyone else is doing or everyone else is paying. But yeah, from what I've looked at online, there is like.
Did you feel like the article in Forbes had an impact on your subscription level?
I felt like it did have an impact on listenership and downloads, definitely. And it I don't know. I still am waiting to see what the impact looks like long term. So I still am going to wait and see more. I think what's going to happen next is we might get a write-up in the New York Times, which would be really, really impactful. It did make my my niece write me in the morning that it came out and was like, "I just saw you on Apple News," and that was cool.
That's great. I feel like one thing that's also important is like making a place where your fans can communicate with you. Mm-hmm. Do you have that set up too? Do you do like Patreon, or what do you do?
Yeah, I have a Patreon that I've set up for this. It's my first time really doing a Patreon, but I like that a lot. It is a good place where people can like talk about stuff. And also that's where I put the videos. I don't have the videos just publicly available right now, just because it is so much time and effort put into it. I would love a place where people can donate for some of the work.
You mean so much time and effort to like make the videos? Yeah,
to make the videos and watch the show and edit them and then post them. And yeah, I put in clips during. It's not like just our conversation. I put in clips of the show that we're watching, and it's time to edit.
That's actually why I like stuff like this, because I'm always trying to like figure out a way to make things more efficient. And like, for instance, like with this software, I'm doing a rough edit of the entire thing and getting an audio mix, and it's already branded. Like that's why I like finding out places like this, so that I can cut a lot of that work in half or even more than half.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm definitely intrigued.
You have a podcast too, don't you, Roxy?
Yes, let me unmute myself. Yeah, I do. It's called, I don't know, I can't really curse on here. It's called Bedtime B-Word.
Are we not allowed to curse? I didn't know that.
Well, you didn't curse. You were doing good.
I mean, you can curse. I mean, we'll bleep it out. I mean, just because this particular podcast is kind of a tutorial, so it's not, cursing doesn't help. So it's like, why even like make it available to a wider audience? Because why not? Exactly.
So yeah, mine's called Bedtime B-Word. And before the quarantine, I was filming with a production studio, like in their studio. But now I'm trying to figure out how I should film, and this is actually helpful. I did one on Instagram live, which was cool, but it like the signal was so trash and spotty. I just like that people could join in and stuff like that. But I think for future episodes, I'm gonna try to do Zoom or something. I really like StreamYard, how it's looking. And I have an OnlyFans. I had a Patreon, but I did OnlyFans, and I've made a lot more money doing OnlyFans than Patreon. I think one of the reasons is because people are disgusting, and they assume that OnlyFans is nothing but like lewd stuff on there.
Yeah.
But OnlyFans is the same thing as Patreon. I just find it easier because you don't have to do the different levels. So I wasn't really keeping up with my Patreon because I was doing all these different levels. But once I switched to OnlyFans, I can just schedule out my stuff and have it put out. So I've made like some pretty good money in like 2 weeks just because people are gross.
That's awesome. I've seen a lot of comedians go to OnlyFans. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm interested in that too.
You should check it out. It's real easy to set up too.
Yeah.
One thing that you can also do is you can use nicer cameras with your computers, because just the same way that you can have a USB capture device for audio, you can do the same thing with video.
Okay.
They usually are around, I think they started like $60 for one, and you can just take any camera with like shallow depth of field or a nice DSLR, and you can use it just like you can your webcam.
Is it called a USB camera interface?
It's usually called I think they mostly go by video capture cards or video capture. Actually, why don't I just look it up right now?
Okay.
While you actually.
What do you talk about on your podcast?
Okay, so I usually talk about nerdy stuff. If you can't,
thanks, Amber.
Segue. So I'll just have a guest on, and then we'll just talk about whatever nerdy thing we're really, really into, and it just kind of we end up going on rants and tangents. So like the last one I did on Instagram Live, I had a comedian Haywood Turnipseed Jr. And we actually were talking about comedy and comedians that we like, and it ended up going into us comparing comedians to Star Wars characters. And it was probably like the best podcast episode I've ever done because I love comedy and I love Star Wars. Somebody was trying to say Kevin Hart was a Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I disagree with. I think we said that he was Finn.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
to me.
I'm like Kevin Hart does stuff, so you can't.
Yeah, and it's more he's more universal than Jar Jar, I feel. Roxy, do you make your own? Is this your sweater? Is this?
Yeah. So I draw some of the stuff, but I'm not the best illustrator. So no, I usually commission different artists. So this is one. Her name's Adiola Owolape. So she does a lot of the anime style stuff that I do because I think merch is also important, especially like with podcasts and stuff, like stuff that people like and want to wear
and can show.
Helps with the money.
Yeah. Oh man, merch.
Do you guys have merch?
I don't have any merch. No, I mean this is a brand new podcast. We just started it like during the quarantine. So gotcha. I could do that though. But I
definitely do that. Get you some money.
So USB video capture devices come in like all different kinds, and so I think there's one called CamShare, I think, which is the biggest one, but you can get all different kinds. This is actually the one that I have. I have 3 of these because I use them for different cameras so that I could live switch with the different cameras. I bought this one, and this one works great. It's not the name brand, but it's less than the name brand, but it does the exact same job and has never failed. It's worked just fine. And so you can go out and get a video capture device and just like make it happen with your computer. Okay.
That's awesome. That's
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So believe it or not, we're at the end of the podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice and simple. You can find us at artsacademypodcast.com.